Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Big Phacts. We got Thursday night football coming up. I'm here with AJ from Catching 3, and we have some stuff that we need to go over about week 3, looking ahead to week 4, and most importantly, breaking down this Eagles game. AJ, how are we doing this week? I know we were coming off, I think the first, was it even week for you guys all season?
Yeah, we were one under 500 with the Eagles loss. We were actually on the Eagles. We were pumped up for the game, and it was, just a total letdown. Right after that, the forced fumble in the end zone. From there, it was downhill. So yeah, we finished one under 500 for the week.
So it was a hard game to watch. First off,
yeah, yes,
especially if you're an Eagles fan, it was a hard game to watch. If you're a Dallas fan, you were loving it. So let's talk about this game. Let's talk about what went wrong. I think it's very easy to, dissect how many times the Eagles ran the football. It's very easy to dissect how bad the offense looked. And this is by far, Jalen Hurts had a couple not so great games when he took over as starter last year at the end of the year. He obviously came in, I think it was the Saints that he beat in his first start. Everybody got kind of amped up about it. And then didn't look too great the last two. Ended up, I think, around 55% completion percentage for the season. We go into this year. It looks just like good enough the first two games where you're thinking, man, the Eagles have a couple first-round picks last year. Carson Wentz has played all his snaps. We might not have to spend this pick to move up and get a quarterback. Let's see how it plays out. I don't think anybody was, fully committed. And then you look at a game like this, and the things that – I'll ask you what stood out to you. When I watched this football game, a couple things that stood out to me were really the easy throws that he had, short passes that he missed that would have been 20, 30-yard completions. Off the top of my head, I can remember a pass just being thrown way to the right side and underthrown on Dallas Goedert, doing a crossing route across the middle with Green all ahead of him, and seemingly like he missed it because maybe he couldn't see over the offensive line. He was kind of guessing where Goddard was going to end up. They weren't on the same page on the route. Give me your breakdown of the game. Hurts play, and this is a big discussion, Hurts play versus Sirianni's play calling.
Yeah, and right off the bat, like I said, we were actually on them. We were on the Eagles plus 3.5. So, I'll get to Hurts and everything, the offense in a second, but really one of the disappointing things to me in that game, because, we kind of, when Tony and I go through the games, we kind of mapped out how we see the game being played, not just looking at the line, but also trying to figure out how do we expect the game to go. So we knew if the Eagles were going to win the game or cover, we wanted it to be an under game, right? We wanted it to be a lower scoring game. We wanted the Eagles front to be able to get pressure on Dak. And they were able to do that on the end zone play. But really, after that, they weren't able to. And I think, part of it is I think the Cowboys' offensive line played a lot better. But to get to your offensive point, they were gassed. The Eagles' defense was gassed with the amount of time they were on the field, especially in the first half. So they were kind of in trouble from that point when they couldn't stop them defensively. As far as the offense, I think we mentioned it last week. We're not Tony, and I'll speak for Tony also. We're not the biggest Hurts guys. Just his passing accuracy, and it's not just what he's shown in the NFL. Like I said, going back to college, he wasn't the most accurate pocket passer, and it showed in that third pass of the game where he throws that interception to the end zone. Part of it is definitely play calling. To that point with that interception, that's not his strength. His strength is not to throw a go route. His strength is to throw those passes like he missed it to Goddard, but his strength is to throw those short crossing routes. Right. His strength is to roll out a little bit out of the pocket and make plays out of the pocket. It seemed like, part of it may have been Dallas being able to keep him into the pocket, but he stayed in the pocket. And, I agreed. You could talk about the running, the lack of run plays and everything. And I've heard him kind of discuss why there were a lack of run plays and everything. Yeah. But, part of it's that. But also I do think, they got to get the go route just out of their offense, because he can't, at this point in his career, he doesn't seem like he can make that pass.
Well, so my thoughts with the go routes are this. If the only way I've watched him, and he's done it to Quez at one point this year and hit Rager when he was out of bounds, but if the wide receiver, if you have to give him time, if you have to give him a 5-step drop and then he has to launch it, he doesn't have enough arm for it. If the wide receiver on the outside beats the corner immediately on the go route and he can lay it in 30 yards down the field, that's a pass he can complete. But these corners know that, and they're not going to give him that room. When you have good linebackers, which Dallas does, they're great in rush and in and against the pass. And so when you're also missing what you're supposed to be best at, it's a disaster. I thought it was interesting, and this is where I'll kind of fault Nick Sirianni, because I like I always like when a coach takes accountability, but what else is he going to do? I mean, you ran the ball 3 times with a running back who leads the league in yards per carry on first down. He averages 8 yards a carry on first down. Now, they have 3 backup offensive linemen on the Eagles. So the other thought process here is, Herbig's in at left guard, I believe. Mylott is out, and Dillard actually, for the most part, in pass protection played pretty well. And then Dickerson is really just getting his feet wet again after having about a year and a half off from football. So he's getting plugged in at this spot where everybody thinks he's going to excel. And I just don't quite think he's ready to play yet. And I think he'll get there. I don't think, Dickerson's going to be this guy that doesn't, live up to his potential. He just seems like he's going to be a good offensive lineman. His personality, persona, charisma, brute strength that you hear everybody talking about. But my thought process is, well, you let the game dictate the play calling, fine. But at the end of the day, if you have 3 backup offensive linemen in, you got to run the football for them too, because they're a little confused in the pass protection. They don't know what's coming from the defense. Hurts isn't great at making adjustments at the line. So if the game dictates the way you're going to be calling plays, you would think he would have ran the football more. And that's what I think what everybody's missing. I think they're like, oh, yeah, run the ball. Well, why do you run the ball? Well, there's once again, all your offensive linemen are injured. Give them a break.
Well, yeah, when you run the ball, there's a lot of reasons to run the ball, not just because it was 3 runs, but you run the ball, to your point with the offensive line, you get them on their toes instead of on their heels. So they get to – that's what all offensive linemen want to do. They want to run block. They don't want to pass block. So you get them to be aggressive, right? So you get that part. You also get, like I mentioned, you get to lead your defense on the sideline a little bit and give them a breather. So when they go down, they get the strip sack in the end zone, right? And then Dallas goes down and scored. It's 14-7 at that point. There's no reason not to run the ball. And your defense has been out there a lot because you had the strip sack and then they kicked it right back off to them. So, you got to give them a little bit of a breather. So there's besides just saying there were 3 runs, there's a lot of reasons that you should be running the ball in those situations.
Yeah, and I said the same thing during the game, and especially after the fumble recovery for a touchdown, I was like, that's great. But now, the defense has to get right back on the field, and they've been on the field literally the whole first half. They were on the field. I said,
not to mention, when the only chance the Eagles had to get back into that game was towards the end of the first half, when you were getting the ball at the end of the first half. I think there was about 4 minutes left in the first half when they got the ball back. Mm-hmm. They had a chance to score there, and then they're getting the ball at halftime. It was the same thing San Fran did on Sunday night. They scored right before halftime. They scored a touchdown, and then they scored a touchdown coming out of half. That's the only way to get back in the game at that point. So you need to run a 4-minute drill at that point. You need to run the ball. And instead, they kept running pass plays. They kept getting backed up. I think they had an offensive holding. It ended up being the 3rd and 20 where McCarthy wasn't calling a timeout. It was a mess on both ends from a coaching standpoint, but it was bad all over. But
wait, real quick with that. So we have there's so much to dissect about this football game. I'm watching that, and I know McCarthy felt like at that point they had control of the football game. The Eagles weren't getting anything going offensively, but you're supposed to have what your team believes. I'm not sure who believes it and how they're going to do this year against great teams. You think you have a Super Bowl roster. Uh-huh. Do you have a Super Bowl coach?
No.
And if that guy's not – and Justin brought up this point, it's like, man, we all know and understand that if Aaron Rodgers wasn't the quarterback in Green Bay, he doesn't have a Super Bowl on his resume.
And, you go back to – I don't know if you remember, I think it was last year on the Thanksgiving game, he runs the fake punt, which was like a double reverse for 4th and 18. Last week against the Chargers, they almost screwed that game up at the end of the game. Yeah. 2 minutes to kick a field goal, he's still holding timeouts. Uh-huh. And then this, no, he's not a good coach. And all those, you and I who just sit here and watch games on Sunday and stuff like that, people say, oh, the coaches know a lot more than you. They do know a lot more X and O's, but I'm not convinced they know situational football more than people watching the game, because they're just not. Some of the things they do, it's unbelievable. To the point, they had control of the game, but Dallas also wasn't. The Eagles' defense wasn't showing any resistance towards that offense. They could have put up another couple points there.
That's the thought process. Yeah, I think he had before the 2 minute warning, and then a minute 50 left, and the Eagles haven't stopped you at all, except for the strip sack in the end zone, which you were already completely backed up, and you were just in that situation, and it just happened. Let's talk about that, by the way, because I don't know if you have the same thought process. We can go to the other side of the football and give all the credit in the world to Dak Prescott. I talked with you guys last week. I told you I thought he looked incredible. I thought he looked better than when he got injured. I know he was putting up a ton of yards before he got injured, but he was throwing 40, 45 passes, 50 passes a game. He led the league before he got injured in passing yards. Part of that was because he was commanding the offense finally, and part of that is because they just weren't running the football. He was throwing 40, 50 times a game. The defense wasn't very good. They had to play a lot of catch up. There's all these factors. Right now, they're balanced offensively. Dak looks great. It's very difficult to stop the combination of Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, as well as Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke turned back I want to say turned back the clock. I think he's like 27 years old or something like that. Right. Yeah. But technically turned back the clock. He was bulldozing a couple people throughout the game. He was playing power back role. Tony Pollard was getting the outside. Did you see enough out of Dallas's defense? Let's put coaching aside. The roster. I know they're the favorite to win the NFC East. That's not a big deal to, I don't think, anybody. Can they win playoff games this year?
Well, I think they're going to have a problem. Coaching is the one thing, and I do think defense is the other. And I would like to see them against – I'm really interested in their matchup this week versus Carolina. Because Carolina, though they haven't played the best competition, they look like they have a real defensive front. And when you're Dallas and you have all those skilled guys on the outside – If Dak has time, I mean, they're going to get open, right? So the only way to beat a team like Dallas with all those skilled guys, same with Kansas City, you need to get pressure on the quarterback, because it's the only thing that negates. And that was the big thing that the Eagles couldn't do. They couldn't get pressure on Dak. So when he's able to sit back there, when Zeke's rushing for 7 yards a carry and Dak's able to just sit back there and pick them apart. But it will be interesting to see how they do against teams with a better defensive front.
Well, part of the thing, and it scares me a little bit, so I'm curious to see this as well, is I think I was looking up, I was just scrolling through Twitter. I have all these sports pages I follow. I think Dak has the second quickest release time in the NFL right now from snap to throw. He's almost doing that Brady type thing where it's like he knows exactly what he's looking at this point in the offense. So it's going to be hard to get pressure on him throughout the year. And in order to be able to do that, teams are going to have to take a lead on them and make him drop back and really look around the field and pass the football for them to be able to get pressure. So it's kind of something that almost, I don't want to say it plays into their hands. People can put up points on that defense. Is it Dan Quinn over there now coaching them?
Yeah.
So it looked like Dan Quinn was doing a good job, but at the end of the day, I couldn't tell how good the defense is. I know Micah Parsons is a really good football player. I know they have a good linebacking core. I know DeMarcus Lawrence is coming back. So I see all the – I know Keneal Harry's out. Trayvon Diggs looked great, but also I had pointed out to somebody that was just such a bad throw. If the wide receiver didn't fall in that play, that still was going to be a pick six. It didn't matter whether he fell or not.
Right. And you look at the, they started the game off with that huge pass play. There wasn't much positive out of the Eagles, but they started off the game with that huge pass play. They had that pass play to Goddard that he got, and then Hurts missed him on the other end. So there were definitely open. I mean, he was wide open on those. So I think it was hard to judge. I agree with you that it's hard to judge how good the Dallas defense is. I think it was more ineptness from the Eagles offense than it was necessarily a good Dallas defense. I think they're improved. I think they've shown they're improved. They played really well against Herbert and the Chargers. They held them to, I think, 17 points. So they look improved, but I would like to see them against a little better offensive competition before passing judgment on them.
Understood. I have Justin's dad, Rich, commenting a little bit. Rich, this is AJ from Catching 3 Betting Gurus, catching3.com. They're actually running a promo tonight. We're on with them at least once a week. a couple hosts that I go on with, and we'll be giving out picks with them once or twice a week, every week through the NFL season. So let's move into some of these games for this week. And actually, to be honest, I kind of want to reflect on last week. So Rams Bucks. I think everybody was a little bit surprised because I'll let you talk in a second. Hold on. I was a little bit surprised. I won't speak for everybody. I assume that in marquee matchups, I just always assume, and it's based completely off Brady. And I'm not. It's emotional for me because I've seen him do it so many times. But then I'm not taking into consideration that Matt Stafford has been doing this, and also that the Rams defense is pretty damn good, and also that the Bucks just don't look quite as good defensively as they did last year, right?
Yep. So it's funny because we were, when we do our prep for the contests, all these contests we're in and everything, this was one of the games I really liked. I liked the Rams to beat Tampa. And Tony said, you really got to take Stafford over Brady? Because that's really what you think right away, right?
It is immediately.
And especially, and I don't blame him because especially in a 1 point, the spread's a point, right? So you're thinking a tight game, like everybody's going to back Brady right at that point. But then we started talking about it more, and if you look back to last year, and I think we mentioned this last week, you look back to last year, you had the Rams beat the Bucks in Tampa. And again, it was before they started rolling last year on their Super Bowl run. Right. But it was because they were able to get pressure in Brady's face. And they beat him with Jared Goff, right? So now you're getting Stafford and you're home. Like there were a lot of factors. And I also think, as much as Brady's not human, the fact that they were playing the Patriots are playing the Patriots this week may have played a little bit into it, right? And I think it was a huge measuring stick for the Rams. And I think you saw it during the game when they were going to halftime and McVay was going insane, like high-fiving everybody and patting everybody on the butt. I think they felt like, these are the champs. This is our measuring stick. We gotta come get them. So yeah, I agree. A couple of my buddies said, oh, you guys are going with the Rams because it's like, again, the mystique of Brady. It's like, how could you go with Brady in a tight game? And I totally get it. But, you got to look at all 52. And, that defensive front is impressive in LA.
Well, it's a great point because, it's funny because, again, Justin and I are making our picks and we're going through this game. And, like, I know the matchup. So, like, the two things I'm thinking about for the Rams defense is, like, what does Brady hate? Well, he hates a guy that can get pressure right up the middle, no matter what they do. And Aaron Donald's probably the only one in the league that right up the middle can consistently get pressure. And then a guy that can lock down your number one receiver, so you almost can't even look his way. So you got these two things in place where, like, Brady's like, I gotta basically, you're limiting him to one side of the field, and then you're gonna have to make him move a little bit and in one direction or another and change his protections in the pocket. So, like, really, what do? You run the football typically, but they don't really have the run game going for them, and they never really have in the last year. They've been relying on Brady making adjustments at the line, making the simple completions, checking down, and then going deep when the time calls for it. So it's interesting to dissect it that way, and then still you go against your logic, and you're like, well, it's Tom Brady versus Matt Stafford. He's not going to let the Rams do this. Well, the Rams did what they wanted to do. They might be the best team in the NFL. Do you like the Rams? And let's talk about Stafford. Has to be one of the front runners for MVP right now. I mean, the team could have started 3-0 with Goff, but that with the numbers that he's putting up right now is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, he's driving right down the field, and it seems like everybody was really high on the Rams coming into the season, Super Bowl favorites and everything like that. And I wasn't buying in. I never really, when I look at Super Bowl odds and stuff, I don't typically look at the top. I try to look in the middle towards the bottom, to get the best value. So, you want to see how they're going to play out with that high, with those good of odds. So, but it looks like McVay has the guy he's wanted the whole time. It looks like the playbook is totally open. Kupp looks like he's unstoppable. Stafford's just dropping it into him. So yeah, they look good. They look really good.
Look legit. So my roommate, like I think I told Justin last week, I'm not sure if I told you guys, huge Minnesota Vikings fan, completely blindsided by them pulling out this, dominating Seattle, really. So Kirk Cousins is having a great season. I
Yeah.
think I don't know if he threw a pick last week, but if he hasn't, he hasn't thrown a pick in something like, I don't know, high 100 to 200 passes. He hasn't thrown a pick yet. Justin Jefferson still looks great. The offense looks good. One of the more efficient quarterbacks in the league right now. Were you surprised that they beat Seattle by 2 touchdowns?
So what's funny is, and he's not here, but this was Tony's biggest play of the week. He loved Minnesota. And we probably just way overthought it. We actually backed off of it come Sunday morning when Cook was announced out. It just part of it was we're not huge Zimmer fans. So, you could see the narrative of him he was high up there for odds for first coach fired. So like you had dueling things going on, but then you have the Minnesota crowd first time back in that stadium. And that's one of the probably top 5 home field advantages in the NFL. So that place was rocking. The offense looks great. Madison stepped in with it wasn't even a drop down from between him and Cook. So we weren't totally surprised. It was, we thought that to be more of an over game. And I think everybody was kind of on the over. And it looked that way in the first half, but their defense really showed up in the second half. I actually took more of it from Seattle's standpoint. I think they're in a little bit of trouble going forward. That defense is really bad. And if Wilson's not wearing his superhero cape, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. It's good. It's been rough for him for the better part of. It was rough for him for the better part of last year. I mean, they were winning shootouts for the first.
At all, right?
Yeah, for the first 8 games, and now it's just like. I wouldn't be surprised if he, just based on what I saw this offseason, if there was a change of teams next year for him, if he tried to force his way out. He doesn't seem like that type of guy. I know he's putting pressure on Seattle, but it might get there. So one more game I want to talk about, and then we'll move to tonight's game, and then we'll get to Rich's question here. Colts Titans. Me and Justin were pretty confident talking about this game. And for the majority of our conversation, I think it was as far as who the hell are the Colts with Carson Wentz? I don't know. And they don't look as good defensively. The offensive line doesn't look as good. It's not a coincidence that the offensive line doesn't look as good. I don't think, because I just experienced it for the last 3 years. The offensive line looked terrible. But our conversation was, hey, the Titans know who they are. And so if Tannehill being on is a great compliment, but if all else fails, they're going to hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. They're going to run the football, and it's going to be enough to hold the other team offensively because they know how to manage the clock. They ended up winning by, I think it was like 9 points. Yeah. So did you watch any of that game? Did you discuss any of that game? And if so, what did you guys talk about? What did you see?
We actually Sunday morning we ended up being on the Colts when we heard that Carson was playing active. I was hearing in warmups he looked healthy, and I think we're just off on this team. Like you said, it's just they don't seem like they're clicking. Costanza's a big loss on that offensive line compared to last year. You look at that team, and we were high on that team in the offseason because you look at them and they looked like they were just a quarterback away last year, right? It looked like Rivers was holding them back. Like they're returning the same team. You think you're possibly getting an upgrade with Wentz. Tony and I are actually, before last week, we were kind of big Wentz guys. We thought that he would be able to turn it around. But now it's looking like they just look a mess. And I know the injuries are piling up for them too. 5.5 points was a lot of points between that division rival, where their Colts have pretty much had their number the past couple of years. So it was kind of surprising. It was surprising that the Colts couldn't move the ball as effectively as we thought they might be able to against that defense.
Yeah, and let's get to this question real quick. Rich is asking, who do the Jets upset this year? Do they upset anybody?
Let's start this week. No, I'm just kidding. Let's start this week. No, I don't know. It's going to be tough for them. I could look through their schedule a little bit. It's going to be tough. Wilson's in trouble back there. He's got no time at all. He's got no time to do anything. But looking at it, they play Tennessee this week. I'm definitely not going to call an upset. There's still time to go with that. But Tennessee is one of those teams that go just up and down all year. Tennessee does not have the pass rush to fluster Wilson like these other teams that he's played have. And the Jets defense isn't all that bad. their struggles are really on the offensive side. So let's start this week with
it's hard to imagine. The only reason I can't see that, and I mean, by all means, like Vegas like kills people on things that they can't see, right? But it's hard to imagine for me that a Mike Vrabel coach team is going to, and I just, he knows what his team is, and that's really all it comes down to. Whether Tannehill's on or off, it's like I can't imagine if you give Derrick Henry 25 carries, that they're not going to win the football game. I look down the schedule a little bit. I think it's going to be rough for them. Obviously, they do play the Falcons October 10th. The Falcons have looked a little bit better. They did just beat the Giants. I was surprised that the Giants were giving points to anybody. I mentioned that on the podcast. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is like you have to take, if you're betting and you're looking through and the Giants are giving anybody but the Jets points, I would probably have trouble not taking them. But they down the road, they play the Jaguars December 26th. They play the Dolphins. Who knows what the quarterback situation is going to be the week before that. So there's a couple games in there. I don't think they're going to go 0-17. I think at some point like, something's going to click for them, 1 or 2 games, and they'll probably win 1 or 2. But it's going to be rough for them for sure.
The jury's out on their coach also. It's just it's tough to tell right now. If it's hard when you get a rookie coach and a rookie quarterback. The question is, do you have the horse? Is it not the right coach, or does he not have the horses to run with? So. Right. But that offensive line is just so bad. If they could shore that up somehow, and I know they got some injuries, I don't think they're the worst team in the NFL. They're definitely not a team that's playable right now, but they're not. I think the team playing tonight might be the worst team in the NFL.
So let's move to that. It's a good transition. So Trevor Lawrence has been anointed at this point for 2 years. I know he was there for a couple, but. About 2 years at this point, everybody knew when he came out, he's going to be, the first pick in the draft. For me, and Justin is a huge, like, squarely against Trevor Lawrence. Like, just thinks he's going to be this huge bust. And forget about the situation he's going into. Forget about the fact that, who his coach is. He just didn't like him. And I think one of the reasons he didn't like him is because there's so many playoff games in college football that we saw the guy get outperformed. And on the strength of his defense is really where he won a lot of those big games. So what's your take on Trevor Lawrence? I'm not going to sit here and call him a bust because I think it's kind of unfair when you're a number 1 or number 2 overall pick going to an awful team, getting evaluated in your first year because we have these high expectations for rookies all of a sudden. But what's your evaluation on Lawrence? And I'll make a comparison to Burrow after this, but give me your Lawrence take.
Yeah, I'm kind of probably in the middle. I don't know that he's going to be a bust, but I also don't know that he should have been anointed as high as he was because – watching those, national championship games and the playoff games. And, he would go score to score for teams. And, listening to a lot of people that really break down quarterbacks and break down film, he's a quarterback. And this is the difference between him and Hurts. The knock on Hurts is difficulty throwing wide receivers open, the anticipation, where it seems like Lawrence does have that. He showed that in college that he could do that. In college is a different game, and the ACC is different than the NFL. An interesting stat about him, he's got all these interceptions. Before last week, he was leading the league in a stat of uncatchable balls. So 33% of his passes were considered uncatchable. Wow. So that kind of falls on the quarterback, right? You got to throw it at least in a position. So jury's definitely out on him. I think he's in a bad situation, but I also don't think he's playing, up to where he should be either.
And I think you can be in a bad situation, but that being said, I've watched Gardner Minshew hang in a lot of games with Jacksonville with the same squad, and I've watched him pull out a couple games. And obviously everybody was higher on him the year before. He's the Eagles' 3rd string guy right now. Some would argue he should be the Eagles' 1st string guy, given what he did in Jacksonville with a terrible roster. We'll save that for another conversation, not create a quarterback controversy here. So let's go into tonight's game, Bengals and Jacksonville. The line is, you probably know it off.
Yeah, 7.5 last time I checked. So since he's 7.5 point favorites at home.
So, what is your thoughts on this game? Is it a game you guys are touching? Is it a game that you guys are giving out, or are you guys staying away from this because there's just something about it you don't like?
We gave it out. We gave it out very lightly, though. I'm not going to go into exactly what we did, but it's Cincinnati. It's the same as what you said about the Giants. Should they really be laying 7.5 at home or against any team? If they should be laying 7.5 against any team, it should be Jacksonville. My concerns with Cincy, they're getting anointed kind of quickly, being 2-1. They seem like a team everybody wants to back with Burrow. He's a likable guy. I'm personally, I can go on forever of how low I am on this Jacksonville team and the coaching staff, and they just don't have a good roster. Urban Meyer's coming out saying every week feels like they're playing Alabama. Like it feels like he's so far in over his head that it's just a team. Normally we look to grab points on, with a team that's getting more than a touchdown, but this is a game we couldn't back the Jacksonville side.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. We were just talking about this before we came on today. I think it's hard emotionally for a team when they come off what they would consider for their franchise a big win. So they go into Pittsburgh and they dominate. And it's not – I don't think it's difficult to dominate Pittsburgh defensively at this point, but I think it's a little bit harder in the reverse. They played good on both sides of the football. They got up for the game. They were talking shit afterwards, saying that they thought Pittsburgh gave up. So they're leaving this game with a convincing win, and then they're still talking about the game they just played, and now they have to go into Jacksonville. On the flip, or is it? It's in Jacksonville. On the flip side of this,
No, it's in Cincinnati.
Is it in Cincinnati?
Yep,
oh yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah. On the side of this, Jacksonville's coming off a short week. They've had 3.5 days basically to prepare for this team, and they have a rookie head coach with a new quarterback with a new system. They drafted in a way where one of their guys that they drafted is already injured. They're not getting a lot of production from the younger guys, so it's really just a hard game to, I think, dissect. And I think if I was I know you guys have a pick that you guys are giving out on a free play. Talk to us about that real quick.
Yeah, well, so ours is actually, ours is a paid for pick. This would be a type of game though, like we don't talk about it too much because it's tough to do when you're, when you're handicapping service. But we're looking at getting more technology, more advanced technology, technologically advanced. This is the perfect game to get involved during the game, an in-game betting situation, which, you get to watch the game develop a little bit. I do think some sides we were leaning, it's when two not so great teams play each other, it always seems like it's one extreme or the other. There's either no points scored on this very sloppy, or the teams are going up and down the field on each other. Right. We were leaning a little bit to the over. We could see some points in this game, not only the teams moving it up and down the field, but also, with both quarterbacks' ability to throw interceptions, I'll say. We could see some short fields. So it's one of those games that, if this was on a Sunday, we wouldn't go anywhere near it. When you have all these other games to pick from, I think next week we finally get a good Thursday night game. I think it's the Rams Seahawks next week. So hopefully this is the last slop game, but yeah, they're both in bad situations for different reasons. I agree totally what you're saying about Cincinnati. The only thing I'll say about that is they're a really young team, and sometimes, they're still talking about the last game, but that builds up camaraderie in the locker room and everything like that, and they just want to maybe keep this thing rolling too.
Yeah, and I mean, it's their second win in 2 games against Pittsburgh, right? They went in there with a third-string quarterback last year and did the same thing, and then they go in there with their starter. And last year was a close game when Pittsburgh was kind of collapsing. This year was like, hey, we're a better football team than you, and we're about to prove it today. And that's what it looked like. I'm a little scared in the direction that Pittsburgh's going. They don't have a backup quarterback on their roster that can really take control of that franchise, so they're going to have to draft somebody, and not to mention they're going to have to draft some offensive linemen or sign some free agents and square the running game up over there too. They've always been known for running. They're not doing it very well right now. Last game I want to talk about, and then we'll get back on with Justin or you guys on Saturday. Obviously, Tampa Bay is coming off a loss to a heavy favorite going into Foxborough for a Tom Brady revenge game. He talked about it a little bit today. He knows, hey, I have no ill will towards New England. Love my time there. Love all the memories. But they know that I'm coming in there to beat them. What are your thoughts on this game? And is there any chance at all? And I know that I think the Bucs are giving 7.
Yep.
Any chance at all that the Patriots cover and or win this game? And I don't like it just looking at it.
Yeah, so there's always a chance. And with you saying that too, I think everybody is backing the Bucs side. Same thing, Tom Brady going to New England. And I think it's probably a game, we were talking about a little bit earlier today. It's probably a game we're just going to sit back and watch. But if you're looking at the spread, Tom's coming in and he wants to, he definitely wants to put a statement win on this game. But Bill wants to also, as much as he won't say it, he's feeling the same way. And if anybody knows how to stop Tom, it would be Bill, right? And their defense has been pretty good this year in New England. Sure. The worst part, Tampa's worst facet of their game this year has been their pass defense. Mm-hmm. And so they're giving up, I think, 70-some% completion percentage. They're giving up over 60% third down conversions. Like, their defense has just not been good. And what's Mac Jones been doing? He's been over 70% completion percentage. He's been, he's slinging the ball around, dinking and dunking, but he's still, he's getting the ball out there. He's had a hard time with his offensive line in New England. But New England also, Tampa hasn't been able to get much pressure on the quarterback as much as they were getting last year. So when you're looking at the X's and O's, do I think that New England's going to beat them? Probably not. But, some of the New England strengths does match up with Tampa's weaknesses. We were kind of talking, again, we were going through the flow of the game. I could see Tom being in the beginning of the game, starting out a little slow, throwing his helmet, getting frustrated, and then kind of clicking in the second half a little bit. So
juicing him up a little bit at halftime, getting a little pissed off. Room offensive line protect me a little better, Yeah. Missing a third down and throwing the ball on the ground and stuff like that. So
it looks too obvious to be a Tampa blowout, and usually when it looks too obvious, and those Sunday night games always tend to be a game. I think it'll come down a little bit tighter than what people may be expecting.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to that game. You guys said that you were running a promo at catching3.com. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, specifically with the podcast. So anybody who's, who tunes in either live or watches the delayed taping of it, if you DM us at @catching3, just tell us you heard us on Big Phacts. We're going to give you a free day. So whether that's Sunday, if you want to save it for a football Sunday, our college picks have been fantastic this year. So I think we're 19-12 so far. So he's heating up. So any day you want to try it, give us a try for free. Just mention Big Phacts in our DM.
Should they tag you on your Instagram page at Catching3 in order to get that free day? Okay, so tag Catching3 on Instagram at Catching3. You'll get a free play for a day. You can catch all their picks at the website. You can sign up for weekly, monthly, I think yearly packages at this point. They're giving out picks via text message, via email. They have full breakdowns of the game. They're going to be with us once or twice a week through the NFL season, and they are looking forward to crushing it again this week. I know they went 2-0 on baseball yesterday. They had their first one game under 500 on Sunday, but have 75% at this point for the season.
We're up there. And our contest plays are we're 9-6 in the one contest, so we're in the top third of that one. So we're beginning of the season gets a little rough, but as we get through, over 500 for a rough stretch is good. So we'll take it.
You're going to win some money. So we'll see you guys on Saturday. Hopefully you can join us. I know Tony Nicky is going to be at that Alabama game. So Catching3. He's going to be doing some live videos, I'm sure, from that state in that stadium. And we'll be back with you guys this weekend. And make sure you guys sign up on the website and catch us at Big Phacts on all streaming platforms. We'll have some videos and some audio out for you guys in the next 48 hours. AJ, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for your breakdowns, and we'll see you guys soon.
Good talking to you. I'll catch up with you soon.
All right, thanks, man.